I wanted to make this video this morning to clarify the state of the chassis on the 2014. That's the original chassis that came with the 2014. It is very old. It is the first chassis that I machined, okay, with my mill. I machined another one by hand and it was a disaster, okay. I mean, it looks okay and it works, but it's not good. Anyway, this is an exact same chassis without the bushings. I knocked the bushings out trying to retrieve them, but they were all pretty worn. So I did a test. I did an experiment with my ball bearings because I wanted to verify. I knew in my mind this was the right thing to do, but I wanted to verify it. These ball bearings that I have a flange on the outside that prevents them from falling down inside. And a flange is a little raised spot. You see it there on the outer, one of the outer rings, okay? So it slips inside the inner ring, but the outer ring holds it out, which is fine. But I didn't want it to stick out. I wanted it to be flat. I didn't want to push the wheel out anymore. So I had one of my oversized drills, which happens to be the exact size of the outer ring, okay, so it won't go down inside, but I hand formed a little shelf with that drill so these bearings would fit flush on there, okay. Now these bearings I found for the armature of the engine. In fact, this armature in here has two of these bearings, one on each end. So the armature in this motor is ball bearings supported. Okay, so along the way I found this shaft. The end of the shaft may be a little dinged up from what I have just been doing, and it may sound like that. Let's see here. Okay, it slips on snug but not tight, okay, and when it's on you end up with an extremely smooth ball bearing surface, okay, and it rotates nicely. All right, so what I have just done this morning is I cut a piece of shaft. I fitted it with two wheels that fit just perfectly onto this shaft. A little force fit, but it's what you want, right? I also reamed this out so the flange fits flush. I put two ball bearings in there, and they are now ball bearing front wheels. There's a little, you can see a little movement. It's not exactly perfect, but look at that. Okay, little wobble on the left, little wobble on the right. It's all tuning. I can tune that out by sliding the rim on the hub. But the point I wanted to make was this chassis is suboptimal as it sits right now. These bushings are worn way out. These bushings are worn slightly. And so we're seeing lots of movement. And these inner hub of the wheel is aluminum, which is not, it's soft. And when you press it on, you can create a new path, more or less. And the bushings are worn. So the idea is, at some point, I'm going to take this chassis and I'm going to machine the slot in it. I'm going to finish the rest of the wheels. The only challenge being the drive wheel, which I don't have a drive axle, but you know it's knurled. All of these other axles are knurled so that the wheels fit on them. Well, these are a press fit. I might have to use some epoxy once I get the final fit on them, but they'll be okay that way. But I don't have anything for the drive gear, so I got to experiment with the drive gear to find out if it will fit on here. Can I lock it on some way? Can I knurl this, or do something to lock that gear onto that shaft once it's in here? Or am I going to have to use the original axle and figure out a way to shine one end down or both ends down so that it's not as pressed fit, but I put it on with epoxy or something of that nature so that the gear stays centered and on the shaft. I mean, it's not good if the shaft can't turn it. So I'll figure that piece out, but right now we could have two of the axles freewheeling like that on ball bearings, very stable, very straight, very little wobble, and the wobble will never increase. That's the other thing. It's not going to get worse. These are ball bearings that last for a long, long, long time. but I wanted to show you progress that I had made, and the plan I have for this chassis is a rebuild, probably using this chassis because it's the exact same model. It has the buttons in case I wanted to get brave and try to use the buttons for something. I was thinking of a soundboard on the side where he comes into the station and stops, and he trips a trigger for the station announcements, something like that. In any case, down the road. But there will be ball bearings in the chassis, probably all the chassis eventually, but also in the new chassis that I intend to make, because we don't have a lot of these chassis available, and eventually we're going to run out. And what are we going to do if we have new engines and we don't have any chassis? We're going to have a new chassis. So I will be building one of these, but not right away. I got to finish these engines. I got to finish my wireless controller, and I got to do another test with the ring engineering system. I'm favoring that for the next, I think, for the third engine. Okay, I'm letting you know. I had a comment from one of the readers, very well informed, very well intended, and I wanted to answer that question so he felt better about where we are versus where we're going, or where we're going versus where we are, whatever. All right, gang. Talk to you later. Have a good one. Back to work now.